So here how we should understand this, I will tell you. Okay, see, listen. See, suppose if I have class A, okay. Let me consider private data member int A, one private data member, and another one public data member, like any function. So let me say display. Sorry. Okay. Next. So I'll close this class. Okay. Next. We'll consider one more class, say class B. Okay. Then what I do is like class B private A. That means B is a derived class of class A and the inheritance mode is private. So if the inheritance mode is private, just a minute. See, if the inheritance mode is private, say, let me consider one more variable here, that is, say, B. So, in class A, we have data member B, data variable B, and a function. And we will consider one more access specifier, that is protected. Okay, protected means like P will consider. Okay, see, we have three things: private data, protected data, public data, and in public we have one function. Okay, so let me not consider the function right now. Okay, we have three data. Now, see, from class A to class B, if you come, if you are linking class B and class C with the concept of inheritance, and if the inheritance mode is private, see, according to the inheritance mode, if you are inheriting, if your the inheritance mode is private, what happens is all members of class A becomes the private members of class B. All members means, first of all, private data cannot be inherited. This is the first rule, not inherited. Okay, not accessible. So this is first rule. Next rule is coming to the protected data and public data. Okay, now these two data I can inherit it. That means I can use in class B. Okay, so if you are inheriting, if you are accessing, in which section it will come, that you should notice. Okay, because in class A it is present in protected section, in class and in public section. In class A it is present in protected section and public section. But when you try to inherit these two properties in class B by using the private data mode, that is private access specifier, then what happens is whatever the data is present, that is in class A, whether it is protected data or public data, both will come in private section. Understood? Okay. So when you are inheriting in private mode, public data and protected data of class A comes in private mode because the inheritance mode is private. Understood? Okay. So let me explain once again. So when you inherit, when you apply the concept of inheritance, this can be private, public, or protected. So if it is private inheritance, that means if the inheritance mode is private, protected data and public data will become the private data of class B. Now, if I go to the class C, what happens? Class C, okay, I say like private or public, anything, private B, whatever the inheritance mode is there. Okay, now look look here. Now the question is, can I access these two variables? The question is, can I access these two variables? Because actually these two variables are from class A. It is not from class B, right? It is from class A. Original class is A for data P and B. Original class is A. It has come into the class B because we have inherited in private mode. Okay, we have inherited in private mode. Whether we inherit in private or public or protected, only private data cannot be inherited. Remaining data can be inherited, right? So I have inherited in private mode. So from class A to class B, it has come. Okay. Now, can I carry this data to class C? Can I carry this data to class C? Because original class of these two data is what? Class A, right? Can I carry to class C? The answer is no. Why? Because see, even though we have inherited from class A these two data to class B, when it has come to the class B, status is changed here. Status means in class A, B belong to protected, okay, and B data belong to public. But when it has come to the class B, both status change into private section. So only in class C you cannot access. If you try to access this, like if you say C is equals to P plus B or P into B, or if you display the values like this, you'll get error here. So that is the concept here. That means when you are doing multi-level inheritance, first of all, multi-level inheritance means minimum 3 classes should be present. If you are speaking about only 2 classes and inheritance, that is single level inheritance. Minimum 3 classes should be present. So class A, class B, class A. In case of multi-level inheritance, what we do, from original class, from initial base class, we'll try to take the data to the third class. Okay, that means class C. From class A, we are trying to take the data to the class C. If we are taking like that, we should see whether we are getting error or not. So we will get error. That means in this case we are getting error, because when you have taken data from class A to class B, it was possible because data P and B were protected and public. If it is private, it cannot be inherited. It is protected and public. So we easily carried that data to the class B in private mode. So when it has come to the class B, what happened? It has come into the private section. Because it has come into the private section, further you cannot carry. Okay. See, if it has come into the public section, then you would have carried public section or protected section, then you would have carried to the next class. Okay. If it has come into the protected section or public section, then you would have carried to the next class. Because it has come and sat into the private section, so you cannot access further. So further you cannot be inherited. Same wordings they are telling here. You just look at the sentence, what they are telling. Where is that? Sorry, not this one. Just observe this sentence. See, when you go to the advanced programming, whenever you go to the advanced programming, understanding theory is more important. Okay, you just observe this sentence. If base class is inherited as private, then all members of the base class become private members of the derived one. That is first derived class. As I said in the example, class B, which means that they would not be accessible by derived 2. That only I have said. Base class here you can consider like A, the example what I have given. Okay, derived 1 class you can consider like B. Okay, and derived 2 class you can consider like C. Okay, so what I have done in the example, from class A to class B, I have taken the data I and J, sorry, P and B. From B to C, if I have carried that data, we were getting error. So that only that it would not be accessible by derived 2. This situation is illustrated in the following program, which results in error. If you try to access, you will get an error. So let me see where it is present. In this program, it is present. Okay. See here. You will see where it is present. Okay. First, class A. In class A, we have two sections, protected section and public section. So we have not written private section. Why we have not written private section means private data cannot be inherited. So better not write. So in the protected section, we have the data I and J. In the public section, we have the functions set and show. Okay. Next, when comes to derived one. So when comes to derived one, inheritance mode is private. Because inheritance mode is private, what happens? You can think like this. These two data members will come to the what derived one in private mode. Will come to the derived one in private mode because inheritance mode is private. Okay. Next thing. Public functions we have. Again, same thing. These two functions will come and sit into the private section of derived one. Okay. Now, if you try to inherit further, so derived to public, derived one, if you try to inherit further, what happens is, you see, we are trying to access I and j. So these two variables, actually the variables of original class, that is base class A. We are trying to access in derived 2, that is class 3. Okay, that is class C. Error, because I and j are private in derived 1. So when I and j has come from base to derived 1, status is changed. In class A, that is base class, I and j were protected. But in derived 1, what happened? It is changed to private section because the status is changed. Further, if you try to inherit, you will get error. So this line is more important. Further, if you try to inherit, you will get an error. So that is the meaning of this entire program. And if you try to access the functions also, you will get error. Okay, set, show, because those things also become private. Say, in addition to the I and j variables, these two functions also become private in derived one. In base class, it was public, but when it comes to the derived one, it has become private. So only I have written here. If it is private, you cannot access in the main function. So here you will get error here. Understood? Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay, so you can look at this diagram. Okay, so what I have given here. So in this diagram, what we have to understand is like, so what we have to understand is from base class to derived one class, we have inherited public and protected data members. And when we have inherited, so those two data or functions has become private in derived one. So only have not put arrow mark from derived one to derived two. That is private, from private section of derived one to the any section of the derivative have not put arrow mark. That means it cannot be inherited. So entire program. So we can try to understand like this. Okay. Now, see, they have given note here. So we'll see what is that. Even though base is inherited as private by derived one still has access to the base's public and protected members. Okay, what they're telling is, even though base is inherited as private mode, private inheritance mode. See, whenever we consider this word, what is that word? Private access specifier. Generally, what we think, the data cannot be accessed. The meaning of private means data cannot be accessed. That doesn't mean that derived one class cannot access these two, that is data and functions. It can access, that only they tell you. These two can be accessed still. Why? Because it is the inheritance concept. Even though you're inheriting in private mode, protected member and public functions of base class can be inherited in derived one. So that only they're telling in this note. That is, even though base is inherited as private by derived one still has access to the base's public and protected members. Okay. Next topic is protected base class inheritance. Okay. Okay. See, now we have come to the third mode of inheritance. So third mode of inheritance means we will consider this diagram. So I will bring this diagram down. Okay. Here only I will put it. Okay. So we have discussed about inheritance mode as private, public. Now we will go to the protected mode. See, till now, whatever the programs we saw, we have not come across the last mode of inheritance, that is protected mode of inheritance. Now we will see what happens. So before we go to the explanation and diagram, in this diagram only we will try to understand. So if the inheritance mode is protected, both, that is public data members or functions of base class, protected data members of or functions of base class, both will become protected members of derived class. So you just look at the arrow mark. So I have put arrow mark from public section of base class to protected section, and protected section of base class to protected section of derived class. So that means both becomes protected. Okay, in private mode both becomes private, in protected mode both becomes protected. In public mode there is no change in the status. Okay, we will see what it is there. It is possible to inherit a base class as protected. First sentence only it is there. It is possible to inherit base class as a protected. That means you just look at this arrow mark from base class to protected derived class. This arrow mark indicates inheritance mode. So you should write here. If you mention the inheritance mode, then we can understand. So protected. So base class is inherited as protected. When this is done, okay, just a minute. Okay, so when this is done, okay, when this is done, all public and protected members of base class become protected members of the derived class. See, in sentence they have given, I have put in the diagram. Okay, so always when you try to understand in the diagrammatic format, image format, diagrammatic format, we'll get the concepts very soon. Okay, so when this is done, what is done? When base class is inherited as protected, all public and protected members of the base class become protected members of the derived class. See, we just say all public and protected members means public data members of base class will become protected. Protected data members of base class will become protected. Whether it is a data member or a member function, both becomes the protected. So in this program, it is shown. So we will see that. Okay. Sorry. So program. So what is this program? Protected base class inheritance. Heading is protected base class inheritance. The meaning of that is, you just observe this sentence: class derived protected base. Class derived protected base. Okay, what happens now? We will see. Protected to base but accessible to the derived. So we have the data I and j, functions set and show ij. So if the inheritance mode is protected, what happens is protected data members of base class and public data members or functions of base class both becomes protected in derived class. Both becomes protected means how we can think is, you just take these two data, you can take one access specifier here that is protected. Okay, you can copy like this. So like this, I and j, protected member of base class, will become the protected members of derived class. Similarly, public functions of base class will become the public section, protected functions of derived class. That means both becomes protected. Public data members and protected data members both becomes protected here. So in this way we can think. So I and j belongs to protected of base class. In derived also it is protected. Set ij and show ij are the public functions of base class. Here it has changed the status to protected. Okay. Next. So if it is like that, then what happens we will see. Okay, in the main function we will see what are the things happens. Derived OB object belongs to derived class. OB dot set ij. Okay, OB dot set ij. So if it is like this, set ij means what? Set ij is a function of base class. Okay, set ij is the function of base class. OB is the object of derived class. So can we access like this? First question. Because object belonging to a different class, function belonging to different class. Can we access or not? Now we will see. After inheritance, what happened? The set ij and show ij have become the protected members of derived class after inheritance. If you don't consider inheritance, set ij and show ij are the public members of base class. If you don't consider inheritance, that is, if you consider only one class. If you consider two classes and if you consider inheritance concept, this show ij, set ij and show ij have become the protected members of the derived class. If it is protected member of the derived class, then you cannot access in the main function, because protected members and private members with respect to one class, it behaves same. This point you have to remember. Protected data members and private data members or member functions with respect to one class. If there is no inheritance with respect to one class, both behaves the same. Both behaves the same means both cannot be accessed in the main function. So only set ij function, show ij function cannot be accessed in the main function. So this line, if you remove this line, you will get the error. Okay. See, they are telling their explanation they have given. So what is that explanation? In the above program, as we can see by reading the comments, even though set ij and show ij are public members of the base class, they become protected members of the derived. So when it is inherited using the protected access specifier, this means they will not be accessible inside main function. So why it is not accessible inside main function? Because private data members or member functions, protected data members or member functions behaves same, that is functionality is same when comes to the one particular class. So here one particular class means derived class you have to consider. So in derived class we have the functions set ij and show ij. Even though they are the public functions of the base class, but when comes to derived class, they have become protected. Their status is changed from public to protected. It is changed. Okay, if it is changed to protected, then in the main function you cannot access. Okay, if the status is, see, for example, if these two functions status has not changed, means if it is in public section, then you can access. If it is in public section, you can access. But status is changed to protected. In the base class, status was public. In the derived class, status has become to protected. So in the main function, you cannot access. Okay, that only they are telling. So as you can see, reading the comments, even though set ij and show ij are the public members of the base class, they have become protected. Where? In derived class. So if it is protected, you cannot access in the main function. Okay. So you'll get error. If we remove these two lines, you'll get. But whereas for ob.setk will not get error. Why? You see. OB object belongs to derived class. Set k function also belongs to derived class. See, set k, it belongs to derived class only and it is public section only. It is not in protected section. It is in public section only. And it has not come from base class. It belongs to this particular class only. There is derived class only. Okay, it is its own. Derived class only it belongs. So, and it is in public section only. So, it will not get error. Okay, set ij has come from base class. And when it is come from base class in the derived class, its status is changed to protected. Because its status is changed to protected, it cannot be accessed in main function. Now coming to the show all function, we will see where it is. So show all function is public section of derived class. So it will not get error. Okay. So class name, class and function both belongs to the same. That is object and function both belongs to the same class. Next, coming to show ij. Now we will see again one more time. See here, show ij belongs to public section of base class. When it is inherited, its status is changed to protected. So you cannot access. Okay. One point to remember, private data or member functions and protected data or member functions cannot be accessed outside the class. This point you have to remember. Okay. So only you will get error for this line and this line. Okay. So I can go through the program. So because here errors are displayed, I have not put the diagram here. Okay. If the error is not there, then we would have analyzed the program. Okay. Fine. You can go through the program. So if you come across any doubt, you can ask. One more thing. Internally, you have to understand like it happens like this, but while executing, so you just remove these lines. Directly you have to understand. That means these two functions becomes protected members of the derived class.